Testing.
Today is Monday, April 1st, 2024. We are at the Green Ladle, and we'll call the meeting to order at 5:30 p.m. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. We'll start committee member introductions with Member Gallant.
Donna Gallant, Ward 7.
Megan Hurd, Ward 6.
Craig Charpentier, Ward 4.
Elizabeth Eames, Ward 3.
Janet Bowden, Ward 2.
Phoenix McLaughlin, Ward 1.
Megan Parks at large.
Jake Langley, Superintendent.
Karen Paquette, Assistant Superintendent.
Thank you. Agenda item number 3 is the consent agenda. Are there any items that members would like set aside? Seeing none that, oh, go ahead.
Just a quick note, I was shared an email, but Member Eames noticed that when you were absent, excused, that she was the chair. We made that small edit. So that's the only shift in that.
Thank you. Consent agenda is adopted. Agenda item number 4 is public input. Members of the public may address the school committee for up to 3 minutes on non-agenda items now and on agenda items later. Comments that pertain to staff, personnel matters, or a school issue should be directed to the superintendent or the appropriate staff member of Lewiston Public Schools. Public comments shall be directed to the school committee and be brief, not repetitive, and related to the matter at hand. Before starting, please state your name, address, and affiliation to Lewiston Public Schools. Are there any members of the public that would like to speak? Seeing none, we will move along. Agenda item number 5 would have been the report from our student reps, but they are busy this evening. Agenda item number 6 is to receive Lewiston Public Schools recognitions.
So in part, call up Director Callahan, but also let's just say a couple of things myself. But as you know, the effort around student resources is an ongoing challenge, and the level of need is great. And we had one of our instructors and students really step up to the plate, do some fundraising and to also to volunteer some time to support the effort. So I'll let Director Callahan share some more detail, and we have some recognitions for them.
Thank you very much, Superintendent Langlis. I'm very pleased to be here this evening to introduce you to some of our cosmetology students and their teacher. We have quickly learned, this is our first year, as you know, with our cosmetology program, that this program is a serious undertaking. We work with the plumbing board and the electrical board and the nursing board, and they've got nothing on the cosmetology board. The requirements of our teacher and of our students is really a considerable undertaking. But what is really impressive to me is that they have undertaken that with a tremendous amount of commitment and professionalism, but they've also had some amazing discussions that I've been able to be part of and have them include me in around the impact they want to have on this community, you know, apart from their professional endeavor. So I'm very proud of them, and I want to introduce their teacher, Casey Wright, who will kind of tell you about this project that they chose for themselves and then have done some extraordinary work. So Casey, please.
Hello, I'm Casey Wright. I'm the cosmetology educator. I'm not usually the public type of person, and this isn't the reason why we did it, but a part of cosmetology and being a stylist is giving back to your community. And I found that we have something close to home, the store next door, and the store next door needs our help as much as we possibly can give. And so we've had a couple different opportunities. In the month of February, we, as the multimedia class and also the plumbing class, we went down to the Longley campus. And for 2 days, we donated about 7 hours worth of time. And it probably made an impact that would last them for years. Jamie and Joel were in tears for the work that we did. You should see the students singing and dancing and laughing and enjoying their time together. And it made a huge impact on my students and the other students as well, to the point of a lot of them asked for their information so they could go back and donate more time. Also, we did a raffle fundraiser in the month of February, and we raised a little over $1,700 for personal hygiene items for them to have a fund because they get clothes donated and they get food donated, but that corner of the store was very small. So we thought what would be the best thing for us to do is donate money and items for them for personal hygiene, because it's very, very important, especially with the kids, teenagers, high schoolers, to have soap and shampoo and things that are easily accessed for most people, but it's very difficult for them to access. I have some of my wonderful students that came up and they helped organize. They helped sell an amazing amount of raffle tickets. We started out with, I think, 800 printed, and we ended up printing over 2,200 raffle tickets, and multimedia helped with that immensely. So Just Doing, I know she's not here tonight, but I want to give a great thanks to her. And then these are my students, Bianca and Elena and Maddie and Sadie. And Sadie, of all people, we have a branding project, and she actually has the store next door as part of her branding of her philanthropy to give back. She is not. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. No, thank you. Greatly appreciate it. Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Agenda item number 7 is to receive and potentially vote on a field trip request for project graduation to the Alphond Youth and Community Center in Waterville.
And Alex is here to present from high school.
Yeah. Hi, guys. I had so much fun last year. I decided to be an advisor again. So this year, Project Grad, has been booked at the Alphon Youth Community Center, which is up in Waterville. They offer a pool, a rock climbing wall, and an inflatable, as part of the just renting, out the space. Then they set up different games and stuff. And I have a lot of stuff left over from last year, to bring. And that's, part 1.
Member Bowden.
Thank you. Do the kids sleep or do they stay up all night?
Oh,
for
no, we
shift
stay
set?
awake all night.
I think.
If I can't sleep, they can't sleep.
Okay, so I was gonna
So-
ask,
Yeah.
I didn't know if there was sleeping situations or anything, just.
No,
check.
so after graduation around 9 o'clock. Did you want to volunteer?
I mean, I am a parent.
No, I know
but I
you
don't
are.
think she wants me there, so. I just wanted to make sure there weren't beds, this is
So
mom,
I've-
this is mom coming out. I just want to make sure.
Oh, absolutely.
Thank-
I'm shaking my head because I've done this adventure before, when I was principal at the high school, and no, they don't sleep. In fact, you would wish that they would. But no, the Alphon Center has a lot of things for kids to do, and it kind of goes in waves, and then they hit their 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th wins. And then when they get back to high school, they do a breakfast there and whatnot. So they really, it's a good experience for the kids, and very thankful to the advisors and all those who go volunteer to help feed them after graduation and do the whole night. So it's a big lift. So really, thank you.
Just one more question. They travel by bus
Yeah.
and
So
they're not allowed to take their own car.
they are not allowed to take their own car.
And so
no.
if they want to leave, they cannot leave.
They cannot leave.
Perfect. Thank you.
So last year, the state track meet is usually the day after our graduation. So Jason Fuller drove up and met us at 1 a.m. and drove a minibus back, for the track athletes. And I know historically that's usually how it happens. So there could be potential for athletes to leave, at about 1 or 1:30 in the morning. But other than that, if they decide to go, they go. And we get on buses to come back usually at 4:30 in the morning.
And it's a controlled get back here. It's not like the athletes can drive. It's a very controlled transition from graduation to get what you need to, I mean, very controlled. Clipboards, check who's on what bus, and they go pretty quickly after graduation, so there's no time for
Yeah, so
poor choices.
last
And
year, we did permission slips, even though they're technically graduates at that point. So permission slips, all that stuff, and no cars, no one's allowed to drive.
Member Hurd.
Thank you. So I'd like to make a motion to approve it because I love Project Grad. I can't wait to volunteer and embarrass my children for a whole evening. And I loved Project Grad, like when we had like a hypnotist and all kinds of like fun, exciting things that we did for Project Grad. So I'd like to make a motion to approve your field trip request for Project Grad to the Alphon Youth and Community Center in Waterville.
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? All in favor? It is unanimous. And if you want to just stay there, the next.
Oh,
one. To
I'm not
receive-
moving.
To receive and potentially vote on the field trip request for the senior class trip to Six Flags New England Agawam.
Oh, yeah, so fun. Okay. So the senior class advisors for their senior trip, they want to go to Six Flags this year. I have potentially, got some buses. I have gotten some funding for the buses. But we're just, gonna go to Six Flags. I'm so excited.
Any questions or a motion?
I'll make a motion. And I will say that my most favorite field trip, in my adolescence was going to an amusement park with my classmates. So this is cool. I'm glad we're doing this. So I will make the motion to approve the senior class trip to Six Flags New England.
Seconded by member Hurd. All in favor? It is also unanimous.
Okay.
Have fun.
Thanks, guys. Oh, yeah, I love amusement parks. Thank you.
Agenda item number 9 is to receive and potentially vote. Oh, yes. Okay, on the field trip request, the Strawberry Bank homes at Strawberry Bank, Portsmouth, New Hampshire.
What do I click? I'm on. Okay. My name's Kennedy Raymond. I'm a 4th grade teacher at Connors Elementary School. I submitted this request. We're currently studying the Road to the Revolution as part of our Lucy Calkins curriculum. The unit covers topics like European colonization, the 13 colonies, and events like 7 Years' War, Boston Tea Party, things like that. Kids love this unit. It's the first time we really get to teach history in the year. Strawberry Bank is an outdoor history museum in Portsmouth. It's one of the oldest neighborhoods in New England. I think it is the oldest in New Hampshire to be settled by Europeans. And so this experience would allow us to extend student learning about the American Revolution. It would provide them, with like an immersive and interactive experience. There's role players who are there, like they teach kids how to weave. There's a ton of historic houses and things like that.
Questions, comments, motions? Member Hurd?
Thank you. So I actually think when I saw this on the agenda, I was really excited because I have actually been there. I worked in Portsmouth before we moved back here
Secure message.
5 years ago. And if you haven't been, it is crazy good. Like it's amazing. And it's beautiful down there and there's lots of parks and it's just a really good like walking space. Like there's not a ton of traffic area. They've kind of like fixed it a lot. So like walking, I don't feel like would really be an issue for the students while they're down there. So I would like to make a motion to approve the field trip request.
There a second? Seconded by everyone. Seconded by member Bowden. Any further discussion? All in favor? It is
Thank you.
unanimous. Thank you. Agenda item number 10 is to receive and to review and potentially vote on the first read of the following policies, A through C.
No, I was looking down to see if anybody was gonna say anything. So the first policy is the field trips policy. And then the second one, IJOA-R, is the administrative procedure that goes along with that. So there was a lot of discussion at the school committee level and then back at the subcommittee level about trips that are, out of the country, trips that are sponsored by the district, trips that are not sponsored by the district. And so through looking at some different samples and having some conversation and even getting input from from teachers. The policy subcommittee is putting forward the policy that you see here. And you'll notice that there are 3 categories of field trips. One is a field trip in a traditional sense where it's just a day-long field trip, or a, within the apple orchard or something of that nature that's not too high risk. And then the other school-sponsored trips, that's everything from the trips that we heard tonight, whether they're overnight or whether they're out of state, or they might be trips that include water that you all would approve. And then the third category is non-school sponsored travel. And the reason for including this category was for those trips that were being organized by the maybe staff, or it might be community members that wanted to invite students that attend our schools to go on trips. But this allows us to say that we don't have, like, we're not sponsoring that. There's no school funds going towards those trips. So it is quite a shift from the policy that we currently have. And those are the three categories and the gist of the categories.
Member Eames?
And I guess I would just add that those trips happen outside of school season, like either during a break or during the summer break.
Any further questions or comments? Member Hurd?
Thank you. So I just want to thank the policy committee for working on this, because I feel like it's something that we've tried to discuss a lot, and there was a lot of gray area, and it wasn't certain, like, kind of whose responsibility it fell under. And I like that the non-school sponsored travel kind of takes that responsibility away from us a little bit. So just thank you guys for diving into it and getting it done, because I feel like it has been like a weird this year. Like, what do we do? How do we do it? When do we do it?
I know we're not voting on the procedure, but I did quite yet, but I wanted to just point out that one of the other things that there was a concern from the committee was around sort of the initial approval of a trip and then getting additional information as that became available. So in the administrative procedure, it's not in the policy, but in the procedure, we did add some language around how we could do you could do an initial approval, but then we would request additional information as it came available. So I just wanted to point that out before you voted on the policy, because it's not in there.
Member McLaughlin?
Yeah, just a quick question, and maybe edit suggestion depending on the answer, is that at the end of the policy, there's that phrase to be included in materials and meetings, this trip is not approved or sponsored by Lewiston Public Schools, et cetera, et cetera. Is that just referring to meetings or materials hosted or distributed on school property or in school buildings? Is that what that's referring to?
Yes, so often with the trips that this sort of refers to, so it might be a community organization that's planning a trip out of the country. There are flyers that the company provides, or the community organization will want to hand out or put up in schools. And so this blurb is to be included on any of those materials that would be informational or any advertisement for those non-school sponsored trips.
Okay. Yeah, I think, and I guess maybe it's implied because it is an LPS policy, but just if there's a little phrase, just clarifying that this goes on materials and meetings in school buildings or on school time, that would be one thought. So maybe that's in there or in a higher paragraph, but I didn't quite see that explicitly just stated before that paragraph.
I don't think it's true, though. I think it's for everything, because I think if you're going door to door to a community group trying to hawk this trip to young folks and their parents, we don't want them to misunderstand that it is a school trip. So we want it, as far as I understand it, that language that we took it, and it's implied that it's going to be on everything. That's how I understood it anyway, that all the materials associated with this trip that isn't one of ours has to say it isn't one of ours. That's how I understood it.
I don't know if this will help clarify, but the idea is someone could show up to the school and say, hey, I have these pamphlets. I want to invite students to go. We're trying to get a big group together over April break. For us to agree to share that information, it would have to have by policy that language on it saying that this is not a school affiliated thing. We do that already with things like rec programming or youth sports that are not school affiliated, but we do share that stuff at school so kids and parents can be aware. But we do have that approach of, you know, this is not a school sponsored event.
Member Bowden?
No, I just have a clarifying question, just for the public listening, who may have heard us kind of going back and forth last time when we had somebody show up and ask, like, I want to do this international trip, but it's not a school trip. And so this clarifies, this language that you added in clarifies that, like, someone like Bree will not have to come stand before us and ask permission anymore. She can do her thing. It just has to say on it that it's not a school sponsored or related trip. Correct. Okay. I just wanted to, like, clarify that for the public because they can't see the policy that we're looking at.
And it also includes the fact that there's no school funding that would be provided there. The insurance is not the school's responsibility, all of those things.
And
Yes.
no class credit either.
Sorry, I'm just really trying to clarify this. So the connection is that it's somehow being distributed or discussed through school something rather. Maybe it's a school staff person, maybe it's being distributed within schools. Okay, so it's not like, just because the way it's phrased, I don't want to seem like, obviously, if something has no relationship to the school system at all, we can't make them put this on their pamphlet if it's some church that's organizing a trip. But, you know, I just wanted to make that a little more clear in my mind, at least. So thank you.
No, you're spot on.
Would anyone like to make a motion on the first read? Member Hurd?
I have a question, about the booster, JJ. I thought that they were all grouped together. Yeah, they're all grouped
They
together.
can be, yeah.
Do we want to vote on them separately or do we want to group them together?
They're grouped together, but we can vote on them individually if people would prefer.
I'm happy to share what the changes are on the boosters and then you can decide if you want to vote on them together. Does that help? So again, this policy is a policy that we've had in our policy manual for quite some time, and we revisited the policy. Actually, the committee asked us to go back and take a look at this one as well. Asked the athletic director Jason Fuller to take a look at it. Jake put his eyes on it as a former high school principal, and if you remember the version that we had last time, there were some things that were questionable and we needed more clarification and we removed some of those. The biggest, or the only real big thing that we added was the no fundraising activities will be conducted within the school during the school hours by the group. And Jake confirmed that that's a rule that's really been in place but hadn't been written down. So we added it into the policy. And then the rest of the items were just some minor tweaks to the language.
And my only reservation on that line was sometimes there's this caveat of, well, the booster group wants to sell raffle tickets at lunch. And is that considered the school day? So there's a little piece in there, but I really wanted to make sure that we didn't have our booster groups thinking, I can just go into school and have a bake sale at the front door during the school day. That's not something we want to endorse, but I went back and forth in my own mind with this language that's here, and I didn't know if the committee had input before a second read. And Director Fuller would be just fine with having nothing booster oversight at all, other than we can sever ties with the group if they don't follow policy.
Member Bowden?
Before I go, remember, did you have a question before I ask, or are you? I didn't know if you were asking a question or if you were just asking if it was lumped.
Oh, go ahead.
Okay. So I guess my question is, what I recall the last time you brought this before us, there was a line right in the beginning about the money shall not be used to pay for referees. I don't see that at all. not even striked out. So I'm just curious, like, how much language did you actually remove without a strikeout for us to see, if that makes sense? Because I just feel like there's some things missing and I was just curious.
So typically when I do a red line or a strikeout, it's only based on what the current policy is. I don't include any recommended or new suggested language when I do that. So when we met as we went back to the subcommittee, they said, don't include that. So I didn't strike it. I could have done that for you, but I didn't. But there was a line in there about paying for coaches and or referees, and that was removed through recommendation, I think the committee, but also Jason as well.
Thank you.
Member Heard.
That was my question.
So did we want to vote on it as a bundle or individually? All as a whole? Okay, would someone like to make a motion on the first read of A through C?
I'll make the motion to approve the first reading of the policies listed under A through C on our agenda.
I'll second that.
All in favor? It is unanimous. Agenda item number 11, to receive and potentially vote on the 24-25 school calendar.
It's all me tonight. What's that about? So a couple of things you'll notice on the school calendar that might be different from years past. We spent some time, you'll notice right in August, the first days of school. The pre-K teachers actually came to me and asked about changing the way in which we screen our pre-K students. So the last couple of years, what we've done is we've had our pre-K students register throughout the summer. They come in the first 3 days of school, which would be like the 28th, 29th, and 30th to be screened, meaning assessed and help us get to know them a little bit better. And then class rosters were created in a pretty short amount of time. So the pre-K teachers brought the idea of potentially doing the screening once in July, a day in July, a day in August, and then that very first day of school. So we brought that idea to administrators, we brought that idea to kindergarten teachers, and they really liked that idea if we could find a way to make that happen. The next idea that came, and I think this is something that happens in Auburn or other schools in the area, that what they do is they take the kindergarten classes and the pre-K classroom or class lists, and they cut them in half. So half the class comes on one day and the other half of the class comes the second day. So it's not all the kids in the classroom at the same time. So they get to know the school, they get to know the teacher. And they would know who what class they were in sooner, because we'll have done the screening and we've done that. So based on that recommendation and based on that feedback, you'll notice that the 28th of August would be the first day of school for grades 1 through 9. And then the 29th of August would be the first day of school for half of the pre-K and K students and students in grades 10 through 12. The 30th would be the first day of school for the other half of the pre-K and K students. And then everybody would be in school by September 3rd. So that's the biggest change. You'll notice that there are still early release days throughout the school year, and that there are the workshop days, as well as the possibility of using the teacher exchange day in March for a possible makeup snow day.
And just for those who have not had the joy yet of approving a calendar, we are part of a region, and so our calendar can have no more than 5 dissimilar days than Lisbon, Oak Hill, EL, Levitt, and Poland. And by total of 5, it's if they have one off day, that's one, even if the rest of us are still in school. So it's for every dissimilar day, it counts as one. So they put some constraints on our flexibility. So if someone said, I think we should go to school until, have 6 weeks on, 2 weeks off year round, we won't be able to do that unless the entire region chooses to do that. So just for context.
Member Gallant.
Question, back in the day, we all started school after Labor Day. And I know that's changed. It's been that way, we changed it back. Could you explain the reasoning behind that? Thank you.
I don't know the specific history, but all I can think of is summer. So because we don't have AC in our schools and things like that, when you get into mid to late June, and we've had some years get into the 20s, 20th, 22nd, 23rd of June because of snow days. The later we go in June, the hotter it is and whatnot. So I don't know that it's better in August or early September. I think it's hit or miss, but my understanding of the real push of the earlier start and trying to be smart about the days throughout the year is about getting out at a certain point in June.
Member Hurd?
Thank you. So I know that it doesn't necessarily apply to this actual calendar here, and each school kind of has their own kind of calendar too for early release days and such like that. And I think that's kind of more where my questions are. Because I'm hearing a lot from parents, like for this month, for instance, we have April break. And then we come back for 2 days and then McMahon has a half day. So like that's really difficult for parents who are working to have a whole week off with their kiddos and try and find daycare or someone to watch them or something like that. And then you come back for 2 days and then you have another half day. And also too, how are our kids like, what are you really going to get into in 2 days and then have a half day and then get into it for 2 more days and then, you're on over the weekend. And I've also heard some feedback from parents too saying, we're concerned about students that are coming to school and truancy and stuff like that, but all of these half days and workshops and those types of things, you may have older students who are required to stay home and watch their younger siblings. So they are unable to go to school because their sibling can't go to school if they're at a different school. So just things to think about. I think I was counting the days in April. And again, I know we have April break, but I think there was like 22 possible school days and we're only in school for 14. So for a total of a whole month of school, our kids are only in school for 2 weeks, which sounds so crazy, but we have to remember that too. Our goal or our job as a school is to teach. And so we can't teach if our kids aren't in school. So I don't know how that gets decided or whatever for each school or at what level, but just some feedback that I wanted to share with parents and stuff that have been reaching out. And the other thing was around parent-teacher conferences. I know we just switched to offering a full day. And in talking to some teachers, I think they were kind of under the impression when they voted on that. I think they voted whether they wanted to do a full day or just keep doing the nights. And they were under the impression that if they did do a full day, that then they wouldn't have to do the after school portion. It would just be 1 day of a full day, which I don't know if that's an option for staff or teachers. I don't know how that works, or if there's an option for teachers to, I know for parent-teacher conferences, you can click a time to come and visit, but I didn't know if we had an opportunity that you could click a time to get a phone call instead of a visit. And to just give more options for parents to be able to connect. Maybe none of those times work for them. If there's a time slot where they can pick a phone call where the teacher can call at a certain time, maybe that's their lunch break or, whatever.
So I can speak to the parent-teacher conferences. So in the calendar, you'll notice that there is the teacher exchange day, and there's one in March and there's one in November. And that teacher exchange day is to make up the time that teachers are spending in the past, the 2 nights that they would spend doing parent-teacher conferences. So we would schedule it so it would equal the amount of time that they would be in school. And the difficulty with just doing the 2 evenings was that teachers felt like they didn't have enough time because you're going through a lot of students and a lot of parents in a short amount of time, 15 minutes, sometimes 10 minutes. So offering the daytime and having students not be there to allow for that to happen was to double the amount of time that teachers had for conferences. So I'm not sure where the confusion came in terms of the not having to do the nighttime, because that would, if we didn't do the nighttime, then we would take back the teacher exchange day. And that may have just been communication on our part. We have been collecting some data, especially at the high school level around, and I think Member Bowden asked about this last week or the week before, around how many parents access the parent-teacher conference slots during the school day. And is that needed? Is that a time that we need to continue? Is that something we need to continue to do? Or do we look at structuring that differently so that we can have our students in school and not use that? I think the other tricky part is we're not able to do them all on the same day. So it does feel like it's all over the place because we have to have, other folks there, whether it's support staff or translation services or interpreters or whatever that might be. And we have to spread that out across the school. So that's two, I think that's two answers in one. That's where we got the giving teachers the day. The early release days, and thinking about using those days, because one of the ideas for the high school, for example, could be to do an early release and give teachers an opportunity to use just a couple of hours of the day. That counts as a student school day because it's an early release time, because students are there for a portion of the day. But then we run into, is it better to do early release or is it better to have nobody there? But we have been collecting some data from the high school in particular, around the use of that day, and hope to have that schedule is separate from this schedule, but that's something I'm working on too.
Member McLaughlin?
Just a quick clarification question. So the parent-teacher conference days are not on this calendar, right? Okay.
Correct.
Thank you.
Any further questions or comments? Would somebody like to make a motion? Oh, go ahead, Member Ames.
Sorry, I thought you meant about that, about the calendar in general. I just noticed that the Eids are both with a weekend possibility, and I didn't know whether that affected anything in terms of our counts.
So at this point in time, if Eid lands on a weekend, we don't have a day off from school, but if it lands during the week that we do, so it would bump our school numbers to, I don't say like a snow day, but it would move the day.
Would anybody like to make a motion to approve the 24-25 calendar? Member Bowden?
I'll make the motion to approve the calendar for the school year of 24-25.
And one more question. Can we second it first and then you can ask the question? Thank you. Now you can ask your question.
This is for Eid that's coming. How soon, I know you have to wait for the cycle, but how soon would we, just for like parents notification wise?
It's usually the afternoon of the day before. Yeah, but it's got to do with the sighting of the lunar cycle over different spaces for different groupings of or factions of the faith, but I have a source that I use for that. And it's interesting enough came up today that there's some discrepancy, might even be amongst different mosques within one community. They recognize a different day. So for better or worse.
Hope you turned your mic off.
So for better or worse, I'll be using inputs to determine which day it is, but we still won't know until then. And it'll just be that day. I will say though, for families who are recognizing other days or multiple days, depending on their faith, those days are certainly excused for religious holidays. Just let us know.
Any further discussion? All in favor? It is unanimous. Agenda item number 12 is a report from the school committee chair. I don't have anything to report on, but I do have two requests. One is if we can send our discipline hearing policies and script to subcommittee to go over and see if we can improve the flow of that a little bit, because it can get a little wonky. And the other is I had a Lewiston coach reach out to me regarding the coach policy that says that a coach has to be age 20 in order to be a coach. And my understanding is there was some difficulty finding a coach for middle school softball. And there was somebody who is an ed tech at the middle school that was interested, but she wasn't going to be 20 until a month into the season. So she was unable. And so I don't know if anything will change from it, but I would like to at least have the subcommittee policy review that to see if that's current or if that needs to be the way it is. So that's the only two things that I have. Agenda item number 13 is report from superintendent.
So a few things you may have seen posts or heard things shared, but Director Callahan shared some more information with me that I'd just like to share out loud. But we'll also look to recognize some students involved in Skills USA in the state competitions. But just from here locally, we had 93 students compete at the state conference. 41 medals were earned. A dozen competitors will be moving forward to the national conference in Atlanta. And we have 3 state officers, as the committee knows, going to be trained to represent us at the national conference in Atlanta. There's only 10 students in the state accepted for that, so it's a pretty good opportunity. Those folks are going to Bangor this coming weekend for their training. And there's a lot of opportunities for the state officers that include, so the piece in Bangor and the national conference, but they also have opportunities in DC. They go to the Capitol, they go to the White House. There's a fall conference that they have access to. So there's really a lot of, a lot of perks to that. But just wanted to share, the students going to nationals, at least at this point, from Levitt, Madeline Gapri, Lewiston, Martino Koto, from Lewiston, Obed Antonio, Tafari, Corson, James, and those are all from entrepreneurship. They didn't just win. People were just like blown out of the water by their presentation. So high hopes for them at nationals. Haley Doyon from Levitt Restaurant Service, Indika Parker from Lewiston from IT, Alyssa Fenley from Lewiston for customer service, Leah Walton, Megan Olmstead, Anna Lowell have been chosen as state officers out of Lewiston. Rain Knight for photography from Edward Little, Adam Benson in auto service tech from Lewiston, Elise Gagnon from job skills demo out of Poland, Aslan Blake from employment application out of Poland, and Bianca, who was here tonight, Bianca Langston from cosmetology will be. So those students were successful against their peers in Bangor and are planning their trips to nationals now to compete on the national stage. So that's an exciting update from them. We will try to get them in to recognize them at another date. Busy right now with them focusing on that. And I imagine they are currently fundraising, but there may be a request that comes before you once they have a better chance to understand the logistics of what that trip might look like. The next item I wrote down is to talk about the weather. We have a chance of weather coming up, so I'm sure that's a topic on everyone's mind. But while we try to let people know as soon as we know, we still have to wait and see what the storm will do. We're also in conversation with the state and with our leadership team around waiver details. So because of the nature of the situation this year, it looks like the waiver piece is going to happen, but we have the pending snow day and we have some other things that are in our calendar that we had disruptions for, obviously. So working with the team on that to make sure that we do that in a way that we try to maintain what we can for contracts, but also do our best to do right by students and their opportunity for learning. Did want to mention that me and Karen continue to meet with the student reps from the high school. We're having really good conversations. They're sharing lots of information. Tonight just happened to be that they couldn't make it from that group. And the last thing I have for superintendent updates, I'm sure there's 100 other things. We meet with the city next Tuesday. I'll be sharing a kind of a summary of the work that you all have done over the last 5-6 weeks as it relates specifically to budget, and at least through March, meeting more than once a week to share our overview and a bit of a summary. And we plan for the next stage after that. The end of April is when they actually vote. So Tuesday we'll get feedback and go from there.
Thank you. Agenda item number 14 is report from our city council rep who is excused absent tonight. 15 is updates from subcommittees. Member Bowden.
Thank you. So our negotiations met last week, and we have pretty much there's a couple little things to do, but we've got a tentative agreement going on the teacher contracts. So that is pretty much done. There's just a couple language things around the law and stuff that we're still just ironing out. But other than that, we reached an agreement, and we were able to get that closed in about 2 months, which was great, especially after the last one. So I'm happy to report that. As well as tonight, we met before this meeting, Phoenix and I, and the superintendent, about our finance subcommittee. And we did get some good news about insurance for the budget. They found out that the cap is gonna be 11.5%. We budgeted for 15%, which could be about a $400,000 savings, which is really good. Um, I don't know how much detail you want me to go into, Superintendent, but
Well, just, we have other
It's-
things pending, and so with the insurance savings, you've heard me say 100 times, if we come into any kind of reduction, do we use that for fund balance reduction? Because over time, we have to reduce how much we're using in fund balance. Or do we reduce the overall? And so it's that back and forth. And we're also looking at other balances in other places for other potential ventures that you're familiar with. I don't have all those answers yet, but we continue to move forward on other projects.
Any other subcommittee updates? Not really. Okay. Agenda item number 16 is community announcements. Member Bowden?
I don't mean to put Jake on the spot, but I did send him this week that the LA Metropolitan Chamber of Commerce put out a list of their 2024 annual award nominees, and Jake is one of them. He was about this one. So I know he loves it when we do things like this, but I thought that was like really cool to see. I was happy about that. Do you want to give a speech? I'll stop for you to give a speech.
I'd just say briefly, I appreciate the recognition and being nominated. I think our community is full of tons of very good people doing a lot of very good work. So it's honored to be recognized, and I'd be remiss if I didn't say it is such a team approach with us. So it might be my name or my face that people see, or my voice that they hear, but there's a lot of good people and a lot of good thinking behind the work. So it's not just me.
And I'll continue. So I just have one more. I had shared with you guys a month or two ago about the LRTC students who are shadowing over at the hospital, and they're wrapping that up this week. And they're gonna like debrief on Friday with the hospital and with their leadership at LRTC and talk about what went good, what went bad, like what could be improved on next year. But overall, it sounds like it was a really successful program. And my daughter today actually got to stand and watch a 6-hour open heart surgery next to the surgeon. So really cool stuff happening. And it sounds like our kids that were chosen for that like really represented Lewiston very well. So just wanted to give you guys an update on that.
Any other community announcements? Nope. All right. Agenda item number 17, future agenda items. Member McLaughlin?
Yeah, I just wanted to restate something that came up, I think once or twice in the budget discussions, just about learning more about the school resource officer program and how it's going and how it works and all that. I know I'd find that valuable. I don't think that's a urgent thing, so doesn't have to be the next meeting or anything, but I just wanted to pose that as something I'm interested in.
Any others? I would like to request a future agenda item. LD 2152 was the bill that passed regarding naloxone availability and distribution in public and private schools. And so I would like to, in the very near future, have a conversation about that so we can get that going in our schools.
I think what you said, sorry.
Oh, the naloxone availability and distribution in schools. Yes. Member Heard.
I was just wondering if we could get an update about our vaccination policy and how that's going, like where we're looking at for students, how many, what are we doing to help this whole thing? Because again, and I've said it before, wherever we go, it's tricky. And I've had my kids' last 3 wellness visits bumped because the provider isn't there. So, and it's not even like they really need anything. They're just the provider isn't there. So I can imagine the frustration of parents who need their kids vaccinated and they can't get in. So just like an update of where we're at.
Anything else? All right, agenda item number 18 is to enter into executive session to conduct student aid discipline hearing Title 20A 10019 and Title 14056B.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? School committee is in executive session at 6:00